And one of the core messages I want to leave the audience with is that you could get there. The healing, everybody has the powers within to shift whatever predicament they grew up with, however bad their life is. You could shift it, and I recommend it, addressing it from both the body, the mind, and the spirit.
Hello and welcome to Get Yourself Optimized. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer. It's my pleasure to have Shara Ogin with us. Shara is a clairvoyant, a life coach, and a reverend, and is most passionate about helping people to remove those invisible blocks and barriers that stand in the way of them accessing their deepest purpose and potential. Shara has been featured on NBC Sports for her predictions. As a speaker at numerous festivals, workshops, and events, she frequently works with women who are ready to call in love, career satisfaction, personal fulfillment, and abundance in all realms. Having spent the 2 decades prior working in the medical field and as a somatic Feldenkrais practitioner, she includes her vast knowledge of the body into her work, merging the practical with the metaphysical and the mind with the body. Shara has been recently published as she's a new author. She's got a book and workbook titled Unlocking the Body's Wisdom, Accessing Your Healing Powers from Within, where she outlines the root cause of over 150 diagnoses and ailments and holistic strategies for treatment. Shara, it's so great to have you on the show.
So great to be here. Thank you.
So let's start by, if you could share your origin story of how you came to discover these psychic superpowers and what your kind of story arc was earlier.
Yeah. So there's many ways to explain that. So I started off honestly, it looks like I have the perfect life if I told you how it was. I have loving parents. I started in the medical field at the age of 21. I was an occupational therapist for about 25 years, an ergonomist. So on paper, awesome. But the truth is I was struggling a lot on the inside. I didn't know how to have a relationship with a woman. Friends, let alone a man. And that was one of my main difficulties. And I felt depressed, and I felt on the outside, and I felt alone. And so, I have a lot of titles behind my name. I'm a reverend, I'm a ergonomist, I have like 6 titles. But I think the main thing that qualifies me is the amount of my life that I lived in darkness and with walls around me, and feeling on the outside, feeling like I don't belong here. I don't belong in this family. I don't belong in this life. And feeling the pain of separation, the pain of not belonging. And so I went on this quest for about 25 years to, I did every sort of transpersonal course, actualization course. I got NLP trained. I got, I lived in intentional communities. I lived at the Buddhist Zen Center for a year. And it was all for me to figure out the meaning of life and what it would take for me to be happy. And still at the age of 39, I really never had a real relationship with a man. All the reasons why I was lacking in self-love. I was body image stuff. That was more in my 20s. And then I just was like, I want to live the life that I want to. I want to end my limiting beliefs. I want to step into self-love and really, breaking down any of the walls that are standing in the way of me having a relationship. And so that's when I entered into a clairvoyant program. And my first year, I was there for 4 years. My first year was basically me crying. And then by the 3rd year, I started to see, I just had healed so much. I had healed my relationship with my father, my past life stuff, all those reasons why, I always compared myself to other people and felt like I wasn't good enough. And so by the end of 3 years there, I basically healed almost all my limiting beliefs and all my limiting thoughts. And then people started to come to me for readings and healings. And I realized that I had this ability to evoke the same change in other people. And then finally, at the age of, I was doing maybe my 200th free reading at the school on another woman who was coming to me to find love. And it was at that time, I had nothing left in me to heal. As healers, law of attraction, someone comes to you for something they need healed and you're like, oh yeah, I know that one. And after 200 readings, that's when the energy of my husband came in, or a man came into my art field. And I met my husband that year. I had a baby at the age of 47, and people have been coming to me for readings, and my whole life has shifted. So I've stepped out of the, I still have my occupational therapy license, but I'm no longer working in clinic. And so I had this, I never intended to have this like U-turn in my life, but I have surrendered to a higher power to kind of guide me and using me in the way in which my abilities would both best be served.
Wow. Congratulations on your success and having a not just your soulmate, but also having a baby at age 47. That's miraculous.
Yeah. I live in a synchronous, well, for the most part, a synchronous flow. Like one thing I've really realized and reflected on in my life is so much of my life was effort to like make the grades, effort to, and I think it's a ancestral family belief that you got to work hard to make money. You have to work hard to succeed. And so my whole life has been crafted upon that ideology. And then I just realized that to really get to what you want, you could let go a little bit. And when you're in full alignment, body, mind, spirit, then things will come without effort. And so I'm actually working with a lot of my clients on how to stop efforting, stop like wanting that so bad. That's the very thing that actually pushes so many things away. It's like, I wanted a boyfriend so bad. I would do anything. I'd, go to the bars and be like, there, maybe he's that. And I wasn't just bringing me to the table. And now when I bring me to the table and I'm authentic, like I'm not trying to get a client, I'm not trying to make money. I just like live in, authentic, wanting to help people in whatever way I could to rise up and stop the suffering that the pain of separation or whatever it is, and live a more happy, fulfilling life.
So might sound for our listener kind of hard to think of being in a place of lack and then suddenly shutting that off and then feeling like, oh, well, the universe has my back, or the creator is going to provide everything I need. So what, why am I worried? That sounds good. That's easy to say, but it's a lot harder to do in practice when you don't have enough money to pay the bills, or you don't have a partner, or the peer group, or maybe you're badly in debt. Like, what do you tell a person who's going through that when they're wanting to follow in your footsteps and manifest the life of their dreams, but it just feels like a pipe dream?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, I get it. Especially with COVID, and people are going through a lot right now. So the first thing is the reason you don't have what you want in your life is because there is a limiting belief standing in the way of you in that. And so part of my work involves distilling what is that limiting thought? What is the limiting belief? We live in the law of attraction, and I try to stay away from catchphrases like that, but it's actually true. When we're out of a resonant vibration of having what it is that you want, it just won't come. And I have an example of that if you want that. And then the other thing is we need to do a balance between dead level, like practical things, and more abstract. So I came from the very practical world. I came from the medical field. I have a family of doctors. Everything needs to be science-based. And everything I saw maybe I saw a psychologist when I was younger, and everything needed to logically make sense in my world. And lately, over the past decade, let's say, I've transitioned into dropping into my heart and feeling what is the truth in this moment. And sometimes the truth hurts. And one of the things I've also learned is we need to get into acceptance of the current state. No matter how broken, actually, my daughter just broke her arm 2 days ago. So no matter how awful it is, we need to get in alignment in the truth instead of just like dreaming or meditating our way out of it. Part of it is feeling it. So coming to feeling and feeling in the reality, and stopping to run from the emotions. So if someone has financial scarcity, which of course is a very common topic I work with people on, being in acceptance of the current state And then, there's things I could do energetically to help them shift out of that scarcity mode. But being on the rat wheel, that you're scarcity, you need money, and then things happen against you that prevents you from having money. So we need to get someone out of that scarcity field first.
Do you have some sort of process that you take them through, or are you?
There's many things I do. When I work with people, it's a combination of coaching and energy healing. There's some people who work so hard, and about a decade ago, I started working with a Reiki healer, and she just was able to take this pain away from me. Like I'm always going to be single, my alarm clock worries. And then I was like, that's so cool. So I've learned how she does that. And so it's a balance between the client doing the work and me helping them through it. So some of it is I do have some superpowers that can help with that. The other thing is I believe that everything you're going through, all the pain begins at 3 origin levels. One is childhood imprints. So if someone really has this core cellular scarcity, this isn't the first time they felt it. It's usually that record skipping that has been playing that theme throughout their life. And we need to get to the beginning of where that record started, most likely before conscious memory. The second place is ancestral. So, your parents there's not enough money for dinner. We need to, buy top ramen for dinner, whatever it is. And that gets transferred onto you. And there's so much we could do to release the ancestral ties. And then the third is past life, which I'm going to refrain from really talking about in this, because I never believed in past lives. I never believed in any of this, before 15 years ago. And it's just, and I guess the only way that I know that my work works is because when I do sessions with people, things like their spine straightens. If they have physical pain, their pain goes away, which is crazy because, I spent 25 years working in clinics, at outpatient clinics. So similar to a physical therapist, I was doing carpal tunnel and tennis elbow, shoulder, none of this. If someone said psychic, I would be like, bleh, total disbeliever. I came from that camp. And then I started to do these things like energy healing or looking at it, even coaching, even whatever it takes to release that, the root of the pain. And their pain would go away again and again. And sometimes I say I'm a weight loss coach because not only that, but the pounds start coming off when I work with people. Because for a woman, when they start holding weight or gaining weight, I think it's mostly toxic weight. And what we're doing here is we're releasing the toxic energy of whatever it is, whether it comes from either any of those 3 places, ancestral, past life, or childhood imprints. Those are the 3 core places that is at the root of it. And, I think seeing a psychologist and doing that kind of work is great. I love it when someone comes to me that has already been doing the work. But the thing is most practitioners can only work with as much as you bring them to the table. I see way beyond that, into the subconscious, beyond what people have conscious knowledge of. And this was the thing that even to like 15 years ago, I was still in such deep pain because no psychologist, no acupuncture, no therapist was able to help me because it was so at a cellular level, my hurts. So when I work with people, I'm looking for an ecological change, a shift in their cellular alignment. The shift must occur on 2 levels. One, the physical, that's the physiology. This means the way a person breathes. When I graduated, like when I was in my 20s, my shoulders were like this, and I walked with my head down, and I had 0 confidence. You'd be like, "What's your name?" I'd be like, "I'm Shara." And through the somatic work, I was able to shift my posture. So part of what I do is if people are seeing me in person, I work, and I also do retreats, and I have free online resources for the somatic work to actually help change your body at a physical level. And then the other side is the mental psychosocial, which is like if you have anxiety, which every woman has anxiety these days, fears, there's so much that could be done around that. Anxiety is usually like up and out. And so one of the key tips I could give you, the audience, is we need to learn to bring the energy in and down. We need to ground. There's like, in the back of my book, I have a whole list of ways to ground, but literally going out and weeding, going out into the garden, if walking barefoot, all these things help to bring the energy of anxiety down. That's just one of hundreds of tricks I have on decreasing anxiety and worry. So so the amazing thing is when you help somebody on the mental psychosocial, like if I give you a session and you have anxiety and I did my whatever magic stuff I do to help the anxiety, your physical body will shift. At the same time, just the opposite is true, that every trauma, every pain you've experienced in your entire life, you're holding. Your body is a stored memory of that at a cellular level. And before I was doing any of this kind of, more woo and coaching work, I was a Feldenkrais practitioner since 2002. It's a 4-year training. So since 2002, as a Feldenkrais practitioner, so I would do these like very gentle touches with people that would help to reorganize their nervous system and their skeleton. And people would start crying on my table all the time. And when I teach workshops, I'll just do a Feldenkrais lesson. And I mean, I'm telling you, I've never taught a retreat where at least half the people don't cry. And I call that like my psychology without words, because they're just releasing something on the physical level that has a stored memory. And as I release that, I don't need to know what it is. I don't need to know why they're crying, but something shifts. And as that shifts, their body actually shifts, and it also helps them on a psychological level. And so we'll see things like the peripheral vision will open, their eyesight will improve. They'll get like a millimeter taller after my workshop. So it's like crazy. And one of the core messages I want to leave the audience with is that you could get there. The healing, everybody has the powers within to shift whatever predicament they grew up with, however bad their life is. You could shift it. And I recommend addressing it from both the body, the mind, and the spirit.
Yeah. So you're familiar with the book, The Body Keeps the Score?
Yes, that was the book I did my, when I submitted to some publishers, my book comparison with.
Yeah. So what's different and what's similar between your book and The Body Keeps the Score?
Okay, so I read part of the book, and it's very basic, and it's very good for lay people who are just starting off in the understanding the mind-body connection. In the back of my book, as you mentioned, I outlined 150 diagnoses or more, and I keep adding to it of the root causes and possible solutions. So I address many other things like the ancestral component of pain, and I'd say mine's like a little bit of a higher level, even though a beginning person can understand my book just fine. I wrote it so that it could be a beginning person or a more advanced practitioner could still get a lot of wisdom. Louise Hay's, You Could Heal Your Life, that book where, that book blew my mind when I read it like years ago, 15, 20 years ago. And then I realized, wait a second, affirmations aren't going to get you out of pain. Some of her answers, I was in a little bit of a disagreement with. I was like, wait, this is inconsistent with what I'm getting in my information from my readings. And so also when I was working in therapy as a therapist, I was noticing that like certain people had certain personalities, like carpal tunnel, and strokes have something very specific. And I was realizing everybody who was coming to me had this whole emotional roller coaster of stuff going on in their life. And, I only put the OT hat on when I was treating them in clinic, but later, when I was finishing my last few years of doing that work, I was realizing, wait a second, this is really interesting. And then when I would see someone at more of a coaching, and someone would come to my practice here, I started to make a record of, wait a second, this person has this, and these are the underlying factors. And, not just from what they told me, but what I saw energetically as a root. And they were consistent themes. And so I was like, let me just start writing these down. And so that kind of became how I started adding that into my book. And but the other thing is like, okay, so I have this thing like tennis elbow, for instance, like, pushing the world away from you. Then what, then what do you do with it? And so I was like, I got you, people, for one thing, I healed my ADD because ADD is simply a not wanting to be in your body, but I have no reason not to want to be in my body anymore. So, there's so many things that we could do that are, so I still use my wisdoms as an OT. There's a lot of, I'm still a proponent for going for your OT and PT. And that is a great, one layer to get your treatment on, but there's also the energetic, the psychosocial. There's actually, I just love combining all my wisdoms and really seeing a person deeply in the full package. As therapists and as doctors, we're taught to see the part of the body. We're not taught to see the person as a whole. I have learned how to see a whole person now and to really feel into what's really going on at the root.
Yeah. So if our listener is let's say experiencing chronic back pain, or they have some sort of chronic illness like Lyme disease, or some sort of autoimmune issue, there's a root cause there that's beyond the physical, right? That's past life related, or uh, it's relating to some unresolved trauma from their childhood. Like how do you identify what's underlying physical ailment?
That's where my energy readings come in. So back pain is almost always low back pain carrying the weight of the world. And so many people have that. So many people are really carrying. Have you noticed, Stephen? So many people are carrying, their sick mother and like working overtime and kid. It's just like, who is living in freedom these days? So yeah, so there's like, let's just take the example of back pain. Lyme's disease, you mentioned that one too, is too many people needing them all at once. And these are all what I call them karmic themes. Like, this is what I'm talking about. These are themes that have been going on their whole life. So if we could change the story, change the root of it, like for back pain, that everybody, carrying so much weight, and there's many ways. There's not like one way I work with a person, um, and I've been working with a lot of back pain lately. So just kind of releasing that, the burden, sometimes I work with people and work at the relationship. What's the burden? Is it, your coworkers that keep talking down to you? Is it your mother that's sick? And so when I work with, like, say, two people, I'll do an energetic update in the contract, and the dynamic between them always changes. So I'm like really determined to help a person take some of that extra effort. And sometimes it's like in the mental, like, it's all up to me, it's like that burden is up to me. I need to take it on myself. So some of it's energetic, some of it's practical, and then some of it is just the let me start the sentence. Not that Feldenkrais, he's a name of a person. He was a judo master and martial arts. So there's no woo in Feldenkrais. It's very science-based. He worked at the Radium Institute. In fact, he was a scientist. And so he comes from a very medical background as well. And I come from a medical background. So when I work with people from that approach, okay, here's a really important point, that another reason why most people have pain is because they're overusing certain muscle groups. They're overusing their distal extremities, their hands, and they're underutilizing their core muscular groups, which is the pelvis and the low back. So we're walking through the world like we're wearing a straitjacket. Sometimes this happens because of an injury, but that's not usually the root. The root is trauma or sitting over your computer for 8-10 hours a day. And so this part becomes like unmovable, and it becomes out of your awareness, especially in your back. So through the Feldenkrais, and to find a Feldenkrais practitioner, you could just go to the Feldenkrais website and put in your zip code. But through the Feldenkrais work, or you could actually do it on your own through a class, we bring our awareness to certain parts of your body that are out of your awareness. In other words, so there's 7 lumbar vertebrae, and most people are like overutilizing those. And then the thoracic, which is above, are held like not moving at all. And if you want to know what efficient movement is, just watch an infant move. And what happens is all the vertebrae are moving like links of a chain. One moves, and then the next moves, and the next moves. And I know this because I literally just taught 3 retreats in the past 3 weeks, and I probably touched about 20 bodies. And I don't think there was one that was moving in an efficient manner. They were locked. Certain vertebrae are locked together. The result of that is the scapula, the shoulder blade, will not glide properly, and the arms will overwork. Okay. So whatever came first, the chicken or the egg, it doesn't matter, but we need to get this part moving in a more efficient way. There's no pill, there's no chiropractic crack, there's no acupuncture point that is going to get this moving. The only thing that's going to get this moving is re-education of the nervous system, of the bones, the ligaments, and the joints, and how they're communicating with the brain. And once that happens, all of a sudden, for one thing, the pain goes away. All of a sudden, we could take the work, the shoulder's blade starts to glide, and we could take the work off of the arm. I can't tell you how many clients I've had that have unnecessary surgeries. Well, in my mind, I don't want to doubt anything the doctor says, but it's if they could just learn to like use themselves more efficiently, then the back pain could go away.
Are you able to connect somebody's, let's say, past life trauma, some sort of unresolved karmic debt or something like that, to a chronic illness or pain they're experiencing in this lifetime? So how do you do that?
Absolutely. Let's look at it this way. We all came into this life, and I mind you, I was not a believer in past life. So even if you don't believe me, this still works. We all came into this life with certain, we could say things that were unresolved from past lives, but like things that we're here to accomplish in this lifetime. For instance, I was basically mute. I was the shyest kid in school, and I was picked on my entire childhood. So for me, it was finding my voice, finding my expression, finding my uniqueness, you know? But in order to find what we're here to do, we have hardships usually, you know, whether it's you come from an abusive home or poverty or whatever it is that takes you to the end point. And usually what we come in with is stuff like, if you want to say past lives that was unresolved. So sure, we could go back. Here's the thing, the pain is still here. The pain of isolation, you know, I still have access point to that. The pain of being separate, the pain of being the one that nobody believed, or however you want to say, I still have it. I still have cellular memory of that. So I could heal it at that level, you know, and that will still heal. There's still healing in the present life, but not only in the present life, but for future generations. This is the reason I believe my daughter waited so long to come into this world, because I had a lot of healing on myself to do. So you asked about how we heal the physical body on that. Anything that isn't healed, whether it's past life, ancestral, childhood, it's eventually going to somatically express itself. So I'm unsure I answered your question exactly. Do you want to point me to more of what your question was?
So, for example, let's say that somebody has a scar or a birthmark, and perhaps that correlates to the person's past life where they were stabbed there. Maybe that was how they died. You know, not to say that they're having chronic pain or something, but that is an example of the body keeping the score across lifetimes. How would you access that? Would you see that clairvoyantly? Like I can see you getting stabbed in this part of your body. Do you have anything going on there? Like, oh yeah, I've got a scar there, or I have a big birthmark, or whatever. How does that work?
Yeah, I think every part of our body, there's a reason why we're shaped this way or we come in this color, you know, and it does define where we came from and where we're going. When I hear the example of the scar, this might be something about like self concept. Like maybe that's the theme that they're meant to work on this lifetime, you know, feeling unashamed of the way that they look. And so, yes, sure, we could look at it from past life, but more so is I want to work with the emotional component and where the person's going, you know? And by the way, on my website, I have a free Find Your Purpose website. I believe that the greatest hardships that we face in this life have a lot of information like that define the trajectory of where we're supposed to be going in this life. It all makes sense now. You know, would I want to live the same childhood again? Probably not. But now I could look back and have gratitude for some of the hardships I've had, you know? And it's made me a stronger person. So when I'm working with a person, the amount of time it takes to, you know, if you lost a husband or anything, there's no like time frame for healing that. But when we work with shifting the lessons that are, you know, if we're able to grasp the lessons sooner, and integrate them, then I believe that actually helps us to move our evolutionary pathway forward.
So what happens if they never figure that out? They just suffer through the chronic pain or ailment, and they have no conscious understanding of what the root cause was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's most people, right?
What are the implications? What's the, like in school, if uh, you don't learn the lessons, then you have to retake the course.
Yeah. So you maybe, I don't think I've said this to a client, but you may be revisiting those lessons in future lives. I do believe that. But let me tell you, most of my work doesn't deal with like past lives because I really deal with a person. I'm not like a woo person. So, these words I'm using, don't let it scare you away. My whole family. I don't use any of these words around my family.
Right. But you do tarot readings, so that's pretty woo. How did that come about?
Yeah, I do woo stuff. But people who come to me are more mainstream, let's say, you know, like kind of I was mainstream. So I think that's my point. So by using words like past life, I just don't want anybody to get afraid, scared around that.
I'm curious to hear how the tarot is, part of your life, your practice, your belief system. How do you utilize it for yourself and for your clients?
Uh, Very little. In fact, I really only use tarot for events. I get hired to do like weddings and the like to do readings, and I get most of my information from here. And I put out a psychic screen, and the tarot cards I is one level of information. So I could look and get some information about whatever the question is. And but most of the information, most tarot card readers simply read the information of the cards the way that the instructions tell them to read the information from the cards. I'll take that and put it into the mix, like my mental computer, and I'll be like, oh, she got the happy card, this the star card or whatever, and then I'll be like, well, how does that fit into the whole stream? And you could say I have synesthesia. Synesthesia is where I combine multiple sensory modalities. So my seeing, my hearing, and my feeling get integrated in one. It's not like overwhelming for me because I've been working with them and I've been training my senses for a while. So, I'll be like, okay, here's a card. But when I feel it, when I see it, and then when I ask my guides, like, what is the deeper meaning of this? And through practice, my answers are coming faster. It's a lot of information to take in. And then it's a matter of communicating in a way that a client can actually receive it.
So, so how do you ask your guides? Are you kind of talking to yourself in your head? Are you saying things out loud? Are you,
No, I just ask in my head.
and then how do you get the answers? Is it a inner voice kind of monologue that's happening? Is it visions or kind of pictures or feeling and knowing?
That's a great question. And by the way, for all the Libras and Libra risings in the world, decisions can be very difficult. So let's. I'm thinking I'm going to answer this from how I explain to clients to get their own information. One way I teach clients is how to connect into their heart, which, if you want to do this, audience, you're welcome to. But I say, put your left hand onto your heart, feel your heartbeat into your hand, create an all loving, nurturing environment as if you had a baby's head rested here. And then you could ask yourself to your heart, is my name Stephan? And you'll feel what a yes vibration is. And then I'll say, ask yourself, is my name Shara? And you'll get a no vibration. And so part of it is getting to know your yes vibration and your no vibration. I'll do a little slower on that so that they can really feel the difference. And then we'll get into more difficult questions. So part of it is learning to trust your heart for your guidance center. And that is one thing I do for myself as well. And then also I have connected with a spirit guide. But I usually even start, show me my yes, show me my no, because sometimes I get biased. And then I'll ask a question and you could see it. I mean, sometimes I see a yes, a certain way that I have like, whether I do a gauge and I'm like, this is a yes, this is a no, wherever it is on the gauge. And there's a few other ways that I see yes. Sometimes I see like a jumping up energy. Yes, 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 go for it. Yes, totally. Yes. And then I, have clarified what my no looks like. And so, I'll get my no, but that takes more training. So I usually teach people just the hand on the heart and finding their yes and finding their no. And of course, and actually I wrote about this in my book, is this very topic is there of course is biases, so we are biased by ourselves, and so our mind will guide us towards that which I'm biased in. And this is one of the issues going on in the social media is whatever you think or whatever you believe. Like if you believe the elections were rigged, yes, they were rigged, and you'll find so much evidence around that. And if you believe that it happened how it should, the elections, then there'll be so much evidence in that. So part of being a good healer is actually getting your own self out of the way. And this is true for actually anybody making their decisions. It's an art to get your own self out of your way. And on that note, slightly different topic, but in order to be a good healer or a good coach, because I did I did 3 years of coaching trainings, but I was never really a good coach. And then once I completed the psychic training and I kind of healed my own stuff, I didn't need to busy myself in my mind with my stuff. My stuff it's boring. And even when I talk about it, I don't really have a trigger on it, if anybody wants to know my deepest wounds, okay, sure, I'll share with you. But I'm able now to get myself out of the way and fully be present with clients or whoever comes to me. So that's and so all the time I get asked with my clients, should I pursue blah, blah, blah healing? Will I be a healer? And I'm like, no one's just going to take a class and be a healer, whatever modality you go on. So part of your journey on doing these healing classes or whatever, energy work or coaching work, yeah, I'm supportive of all that, but mostly it's a journey to heal yourself. And then when you get to that point when you can get yourself out of the way, then you'll get much clearer information. And when I completed the clairvoyant training, all of a sudden, 20 years of interpersonal work, 3 years of coaching training, it all came into it all made sense. And then I could do NLP on past lives and NLP on childhood stuff. And I've been kind of like pinning together my own formula instead of, I had some great teachers. And so instead of doing it just the way they taught me through practice and trial and error, I'm learning like this actually makes the most sense.
And when you started the clairvoyant training, did you have any visions or imagery come to you that were otherworldly?
That's a great question. No, I only started because I was working with a coach. I was still mainstream. I didn't even believe in the word clairvoyant or psychic, but I literally just wanted to be happy. I wanted to stop comparing myself to other people and feeling jealous, and I wanted to find love. I wasn't looking for a career change because I really liked my work as an occupational therapist. And no. And then I remember the teacher said, everybody's psychic. And I was like, I don't get what that means. Like, do I have to like make something up? And it's as simple as like, imagine a purple rhinoceros right now. And so as you imagine a purple rhinoceros, you're seeing a vision. And the psychic is really like a muscle, which I never ever believed that we had this ability, but we all have it inside of us. It's part of it is expanding your imagination. And so, and then as you like expand it, then you'll start to see more colors and your dreams. This work will really expand your dreams. And then with practice, just like going to the gym and working weights, I started to see, like there was that one reading in my first year. All of a sudden, I saw something. I said, I think I see, whatever I saw. Like I said, I think I see some fish in a pool. And we're like trying to find a past life, but I was like, I don't really know if this makes any sense. So by the second year, it's like clearing that self-doubt. And then by the third year, it's learn to trust yourself. Trust is a huge thing. A lot of my clients I'm working with, if people have trust issues, like, not trusting people, some of the women I work with have been hurt by men. And so they have that trust thing, or they've been taken advantage of. But really, ultimately, when we have distrust for the world, it ultimately stems from here, where we want to gain more self trust. And so through that practice, I learned to trust my information and to trust my wisdoms. And I'll also tell you that I'm not 100% correct. I don't claim to be a fortune teller. I don't claim to know all the answers. I'd say more so maybe a 90 to 95% accuracy rate, but that's not what's important for me. What's important is that there's change that is evoked, and that, the person changes, and I see it and I feel it, and they're lighter when they leave my sessions.
And where is God in all of this? Are you calling on Creator, and, or angels, or combination to do your work? Or are you just referring to it as the universe, or energy, or like how does it? Um, yeah, how does God work into this?
Yeah, so whatever word you want to use, I'm not like, actually, my root is Jewish. Um, so whatever religion anybody is, it's fine. So any of those words you want to use, completely acceptable. And a lot of people do actually resonate with one word more than the other. So I want to refrain from offending anybody by using any particular word. Ultimately, I use the word higher self. We all have a higher guidance center. And one way to think about this is there's a part of you that knows, or you could think about yourself 1 year from now, like your future self. Even Stephen, I say take your eyes to the right or the right's over here on TV, because that's future and NLP, neuro linguistic reprogramming, and beam yourself out there. And then what does your future person say about this? And we could either it works with either the future version of you or your higher self. And this is another way to get the information. And so I'm constantly like with clients, being yourself 1 year from now. What does yourself tell you about staying in this relationship? And then when we take the information, like take ourselves out of it and get the information from somebody else, it actually makes it easier. Sometimes doing healing, like outside, like you could even do a metaphorical healing. That's something like an NLP. And the information is, or sometimes I'll share a story with myself. And then the wisdom at the end of the story about my experience was something similar. That's what's going to do the healing rather than directly impacting a person.
Gotcha. You mentioned earlier that you had your daughter at age 47. How did that come about? Because that's pretty unusual.
She was a work in the making. The first step is I had to get into acceptance of the fact that I would probably always be single for the rest of my life. You know, turning 40, having, the relationships I had, that was the first part. And that took me a few years to actually get there. I was, it's, if you tell somebody that they're going to be single for the rest of their life, that is like, like I'm a Libra rising. I need relationships. And so it felt like death at first. And then I came into acceptance because I started to realize I was good at something. I was good at doing my work. And I started to realize maybe this life isn't all about me. And so, I started to put my attention outward and help people. And that gave me a great sense of purpose. That was the first step. Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of a longer story, but, then the man came in, and then the possibility came in. And then I spent the next couple of years really on a quest to heal whatever it was that would make me the best mother possible and to bring in the highest light of a child. And also, I led this one workshop at Burning Man a few times called Calling in Your Child. And it's sort of like applying for a job that I said, this is what you got, on the positive, I'm extremely empathetic and loving and caring. But on the downside, I have my own life, so I'm less of the playground mom than maybe I would have been if I was younger. And also, I probably won't make it around much past your, wedding. So, I was like, choose me if it feels like a good fit. And I put that call out there. And as soon as I put that call out there, I felt her connect. And then the next year was about me clearing any residual, any really, for me, it was my free will and my free expression, like my ability to play and have fun. I lost it somewhere along the road in my childhood, after being hurt so many times as a child. And I needed to reclaim that. And then as soon as I did, I saw this like energy of this laughing, fun, giggly girl all around me. And then she came in, Gemini, can't talk more, full freedom of expression. And if anybody knows anything about astrology, my north node is her south node, and her south node is my north node. So I feel like this journey was really all to be here to actually bring her in. And then that was kind of the cherry on the top of what I needed to heal and resolve within my life. And then from there, it's all about giving back. I had some amazing teachers who took me under their wing and all my years of being so wounded. And now I'm just kind of like here as a transporter to help other people to heal themselves.
Are you familiar with the book Spirit Babies? How to Communicate with the Child You're Meant to Have?
Sounds like a good book, though.
Yeah, Walter Macachin. He's no longer on this side of the veil, but his book is phenomenal. Something maybe to for our listener to check out. So the concept of communicating with your uh, not yet born or even maybe conceived baby might be pretty out there for some of our listeners. What do you tell them if they're feeling uncomfortable? Like, is this even something that is allowed by my religion? Is it something that's like you know too esoteric or occult? Like, what do you tell them?
First of all, once again, if you're doubting anything I'm saying, I was there too. I got you. Having a child is very much like calling in your soulmate, like calling in a partner soulmate. And by the way, it's the same for a pet too. Choosing your dog or cat, that's a whole nother story, but it really is the vibration of attraction. One thing, so many women in their 40s are, trying to have baby, and there's such this like infertility thing going on. And when I work with women or look at women, I mean, most of the women there are spending so much money into IVF that, they're unable to afford outside help, energetic help. But one thing I want to say is it's like that trying and wanting it so bad. And this is against the law of attraction. The same thing with the love. Every time it's like I wanted a pet or I wanted a partner or I was like grabbing and wanting. And then when I surrendered and let go, that's when it happened. And, this is back to your question with how do you tell that to somebody who wants something so bad? And it is a mindset shift. It really is. And this is also tying in the theme of the trust, like trusting that you are on the right path, trusting that these things are going to happen and unravel in the right time, in the right place, and as they should. And I believe like we all want to get to that point where we're in acceptance and alignment when we take that last breath of life and that we're in peace and resonance with the life that we have lived. And so knowing whatever predicament you are in right now, it's like decide, how do you want to live your life? Do you want to live it in fear? Do you want to live it in scarcity? You could literally get the same outcome, like financially wise or partner wise or child wise, with letting go of some of that anxiety and effort. You could use the visual right now of being a child and just being held. Like, I think at some level, energetically, that's what I'm doing with my clients, is I'm holding them and I'm letting them go. No, it's going to be okay. Whatever version it is, whatever fear or doubt, it is going to be okay.
Do you believe in multiple timelines and that things are pretty much preordained on the timeline that we're on, but we can choose different timelines?
Well, it's funny. I didn't until I started studying astrology. And now that I'm studying astrology, whenever there's like a major mishap, like I've been looking at the chart of how my daughter broke her arm 3 days ago. It kind of all is in the astrology chart, but there is still free will. It's like there's these like major events that are going to happen, like accident prone signs on the chart, but you do have choice. So, and even when I'm doing like readings, I'm looking at the energy of love or whatever it is, and I'm seeing the most likely outcome. And at the same time, I'm like, you still have choice. There's still a possibility of changing the outcome. So take, whatever I say at a grain of salt. I'm not deciding your destiny for you.
When you talk to people, do you see into their future or do you see into their soul? Or
I try not to.
yeah, what if they ask you, like, hey, can you tell me what's in my future? Uh, are you able to just tap in and
That's not the use of my ice gift. More so, it's where do you want to go? Whatever it is, let's create a vision of that, and let's see what's getting in the way from where you are to from point A, where you are to point B. And then my magic is helping you to clear those blocks, whether it's on the physical level, on the mental level, in the mind, or any of those levels I talked about. That's where my magic comes from. Of course, women ask me all the time, "Is he going to be are we going to get married? Am I going to find the partner?" And you know, I'll maybe touch on those kind of questions a little bit. For the most part, there's like don't kill the messenger, and so for most part, I have nothing to achieve like win by answering those questions. Usually, I did have an astrologer that told me, I asked him like 15 years before I met my husband when I would find love, and it was like the most devastating thing I ever heard. And so, I try to air caution on answering, and I don't predict death. By the way, people ask me all that. No, 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 no. We don't do any of that.
um, my philosophy on it is spend less time trying to predict the future and more time trying to create the future.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I'm not going to tell anybody they're like stepping into an awful, future. Plus, I probably wouldn't even be able to see that anyways if I tried. It's more so like take what you have. People usually come to me when they got stuff to work on. And let's turn, we could work with, I could work with that. I could work with a lot about that to help change the situation, the feelings about it. Ultimately, what we're dealing with is in here.
What would be the most impactful or powerful exercise from your workbook that our listeners should know about?
Okay, so my workbook here, um, it starts with belief change, like 3 belief change lessons. And by the way, I also have a free YouTube video as well. Ultimately, we want to get to the root of, everybody's got, ironically, 5 or 6 limiting beliefs that drive the course of their life. Everybody's got like, I don't belong, I'm not good enough, some version. The I'm not good enough, it's probably one of the main ones, especially with women. But there's different flavors of that, just like there's many flavors of chocolate ice cream. And so you want to find the specific flavor that and I could feel it. I could feel what the flavor of that I'm not enough is. And we got to find the root of it and heal it. I could do this for you. I do this, in my work, but you could do it as well. And that's free. And so you could do it. And so going back and so it's written out. You can read it. You could read into an audio tape and how to, heal that and find that. And limiting beliefs are one of those things that you want to hit so many times. There's not, if anybody's like, I have the one technique that's going to help you to heal, never believe that. In my experience, it's got to be, I have like 20 different versions of how I help people with their limiting beliefs. And sometimes I try all of them, and each one makes a difference. And people are like victims of habits. We're going to go back to that same habit. And then you hit it again from another angle, another angle, another angle. That's one of my, and I'll share a couple of other exercises is cutting cords. That's a YouTube video for that. Boundaries and the purpose and passion, how to find your purpose. And then body and being, which is connecting body and spirit. This is a lot of the reason anybody with chronic pain has a body being malalignment. Anybody who doesn't want to be in their physical body, and at the root of that is usually trauma. It doesn't have to be one trauma, like in the case of me. I was never abused or, any of that stuff. But when it's uncomfortable to be in your body and you're 5 years old, then that's where you're going to have a split. The split is called disassociation. This is one of the reflexive ways that the body keeps itself safe. We disassociate. Mom and dad are yelling. If dad hits mom, then of course we want to leave our physical body. And that becomes ingrained in our coping mechanisms. Ironically, and this isn't in my workbook, but this is another topic, side topic, is we all have about 5 or 6 main coping mechanisms or defense mechanisms that at the roots, this is like my next book, let's say, that at the roots stem from the limiting belief and the circumstances, the limiting belief, and then the way we cope. And most of us are still doing that to this day as an adult. We have maybe more mature circumstances going on that are pushing that trigger button, but the same limiting belief occurs. And then the same defense mechanism, like passive aggressive, you're doing that again, or I'm out of here, or whatever way we cope with that. And then guess what? The universe shines back on us the same circumstances. So we start attracting that same unavailable man, that same man that treats you like crap, the same job that overworks you, the same way that you're living this life, and the burdens and the upheaval and all the things that you're dealing with every day just won't stop. So we got to get it from the root, and you could change it anywhere along the line. You could change your defense mechanisms. I can't change the circumstances. Well, I probably can, but I can't change the circumstances or what happened in your childhood, but I can change your memory of it, help you to change your memory of it. And the outcome because of it, the cellular outcome, the things we're passing on to our children. And not only that, we're also passing on this information laterally. That means nieces, nephews, friends, community, we're passing on the vibration of what we're going through. And so when I look at collectively, like when COVID started, for instance, there was so much freaking fear. People were listening to the news, and I was like, wait a second. I was just watching it happen, all the fear and then all the physiological reactions that happened. And I think right now we're healing from separation anxiety. We're relearning how to connect with somebody else. And it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit shifted and a little bit different. I think most people will kind of understand what I'm talking about.
I know we're out of time, but if our listener is wanting to learn more from you, work with you, attend some of your retreats or workshops, what's the best next step for them?
Great. My website, sharaogin.com. That's SharaOgin.com. And my book is on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Shara, and thank you, listener. I appreciate you guys, my community, my listeners, so much for having an open mind, for having an open heart, and being willing to suspend the disbelief. We'll catch you in the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.